It's a new thing. Okay. All right. So command compliance. This is how you submit paperwork to the office. So as you all know, we're moving away from or moving into being paperless. So we're not emailing anymore and we're submitting it through command. So I'm going to go through the most straightforward way to get your contact in, create an opportunity, and submit paperwork. There's a lot more to opportunities than what I'm going to show you. Opportunities is meant to manage your transactions, your potential transactions, see your upcoming income, potential income, things like that. I'm not going to go through that part. I'm just going to go through the bare minimum of like, this is what you have to do to submit paperwork, okay? So to start, your first step is you have to make sure that your client or clients are in command, in your contacts. So first, we're just going to add a contact. Hillary, I'm going to pick on you because I definitely don't have you in here yet. So also everyone who's on this call, Hillary is here. She's our new Director of First Impressions. She was introduced at our monthly meeting, but if you weren't there or if you didn't watch the recording, you probably don't know that Hillary has joined us. But Hillary is here to help us out because we are too busy because you guys have too many sales. Okay, so I'm going to add Hillary. And really all you have to add is their email if you're strictly using this for submitting paperwork purposes. Of course, to manage your database properly, you should be putting in much more than that, but that's not the purpose of this training. So now that we have Hillary in there, my client, I'm going to search for her. There she is. I'm going to click on her name to open up her contact card. I'm going to click on the opportunities button over to the right. I can see she currently has no opportunities associated to her. So remember, an opportunity is like a transaction or a potential transaction. Okay, so currently she doesn't have any. So I'm going to create one. So when we create an opportunity, I think everybody on this call only belongs to one market center. Yep, we only have a couple that are in two. So everyone on this call is only in one market center. If you happen to be in two Keller Williams offices, you'll just have to choose which one from the drop down here. If you are on a team, your team name will be here. If you're an individual agent, this will be grayed out. So either way, leave it as is. Opportunity type is very, very important. If it's a listing, choose listing. If it's a buyer, choose buyer. This is the only thing that you cannot edit later on. So make sure you choose properly. And it's really important for submitting documents that you choose properly. You'll be totally lost if you choose the wrong one. If you do choose the wrong one, the only option is to delete this opportunity and create a new one. So just make sure you choose properly. If you happen to be representing a client doing both, listing their home and buying a new one, that's two opportunities because it's two transactions. Okay, any questions there? No? Okay. So let's go with a listing for this example. The owner is who on the team owns this opportunity. So if you're an individual agent, this doesn't count. You won't have this option. If you're on a team, that's between you and how your team functions, who owns it. So it may be that the agent dealing with this client, dealing with this transaction is the owner, or it might be the rainmaker owns it because it was their lead that they gave to the agent. Totally up to your team and how you guys figure that out. Your client, so Hillary's already linked in here because I created the opportunity from her contact card, okay? If I had two clients, I would put my other one in here. So if Alex was also selling this house, I would add him there. I'm just gonna do one for simplicity here. Opportunity name, so we need the name to be the transaction address. If you're creating this as a buyer, you may not know what they're buying yet. That's fine. You can leave it. If I chose this as a buyer, it would say Hillary Reeder buyer. Totally fine. You can edit it later once you have an accepted offer with them and you know what property they're buying. However, if it's a listing, you should know the listing address. So I'm going to do 789 Main Street. Now, there are people who add way more details after that in the opportunity name. That's fine. However, you need to see it so that it makes sense to you. So I might go 789 Main Street, Hillary Reader, seller. SDBA expires December 31st, 2021. I see that a lot, the expiry date for either their SDBA or their BDBA right in the name of the opportunity. Totally fine, whatever you need, but we need the street address at the start. Custom tags, that's up to you for tracking where your business came from. So if you're on a hockey team and this opportunity is because of your hockey team, you might tag it hockey. Totally up to you, does not matter for document submission. Estimated closing date, we do need filled in once there is a closing date. However, you likely don't know that when you're first creating the opportunity, so you can leave it blank and fill it in later. Listing price, this doesn't really matter if it's filled in or not. If you're using opportunities to keep track of your commission, you need to put in the listing price or else it doesn't know what commission you're getting from this opportunity. But for document submission, it's not overly important. Commission rate is required, so put that in there. You can change it if you need to. And then opportunity phase. So opportunities have a pipeline. So cultivate, then appointment, then active, under contract, and closed. So just where on the pipeline is this opportunity falling? Again, for document submission, it's not overly important, but if you're using opportunities properly and using your pipeline to know what money you have coming, it is important. So for the purpose of this training, I'm not going to go into much more detail there, but just simply choose which opportunity. So if this is becoming an active listing, I'm going to put it straight into the active phase. And then the stage is just kind of like subcategories under active. Is it an exclusive listing? Am I showing it? Am I negotiating it? And legacy, you can ignore. It's an old feature that shouldn't be there anymore, but it is. And then assignees is who on the team is dealing with this opportunity. So if you're an individual agent, ignore that, you won't have it. If you're on a team, who needs access to this opportunity, basically. So if the agent dealing with the transaction would be here. If there's an admin who needs access to it, you'd add them here. If you need the rainmaker to have access to it, you add them here. If you go on vacation and another team member's taking over, you can add them in, things like that. So then you just hit create when you're done. And then in the opportunities tab of my client, I can see my opportunity I just created. So I'm just going to click on the title and it's going to take me into that opportunity. Any questions so far? No? Okay. So here we can see I'm on the details tab of.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I did have one.
Yeah.
For the, what happens if you were saying under the opportunity that it needs a street name? What if I'm starting with a couple that really, they just know that they're able to purchase between 450 to 600,000 and they have a couple of different areas and I'm just starting to work with them?
Yeah, so if it's a buyer and you don't know the transaction address, you can just leave it as Hillary Reader buyer. And then when you get an accepted offer with them, you can just edit the name.
Okay, thanks.
So from the details tab here, you can see the general information. Here's all that information I filled out. There's a pencil right here. You just have to click that. So here's the opportunity name. If this still said Hillary Reader buyer, I can now change it to include the property address.
Okay.
The other important piece that you need to add is the estimated closing date. I know it says estimated, but as soon as you know what the closing date is going to be, please come in and fill it in. So if we're going to close on June 25th, I'm going to put that there. All right. The rest of this is optional. You can fill it out if you want to. So if you want to include the property information here, that's fine. But even if you do, we still need it in the title. On the office end, we can't easily tell what property it's for unless it's in the title. You can also link listings. So you can select a listing here. So you'd have to change it from only my listings to all listings. And then whatever address it is, you could search it and link it. It would fill out this property side. Totally up to you if you do that or not. You can also just type this in by hand, whatever you want.
Why would you do that? Why would you link?
Thank you,
Um,
Marianne.
If you like things being complete, most people leave this blank, which is fine. And it just saves you from having to type it all out. Does anyone know an active listing right now? Off the
No,
top
but I
of your
don't
head?
know what you mean. You would link another listing to this one?
So whatever transaction it is. So if you're buying a listing, you could link it. If it's your listing, you could link it.
But it would typically be a buyer's thing, wouldn't it?
It
Like
could
if
be
it
either.
was- It could be either.
Yeah.
I feel like I could really use it on the buying side to say, here's the listing that they ultimately went with.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
for
either way,
children.
once, if it's your listing, you can then just search for it once it's active and it would fill, it really just fills in this property information. That's all it does. So you don't have to fill it in by hand. It's not important. Are we good? Okay, so we're gonna move to the Documents tab. Once we go to Documents, now if you're using DocuSign, the way that we've been teaching, you're going to click Start a Transaction to create your DocuSign room. If you're using DocuSign, this should be familiar. I am just going to really quickly upload a couple things into DocuSign. I'm not going to get them signed or anything, just to show you. So just gonna quickly, again, this isn't a DocuSign training. Hopefully you know how to use DocuSign, or you don't have to, but it does make your life a little bit easier. Okay, so now, so in reality, we would have all of our documents filled out, everything signed, and we're just submitting it to the office. So right here where it says pick checklist type, you're just going to choose which checklist. Now for a listing, for everybody on this call, I don't think there's anyone from PEI on the call, nope. So for everybody on this call, for a listing, you're always going to choose standard, okay? So your options, the commercial team has a separate checklist because their paperwork is very different. And then if you're licensed in PEI, obviously their paperwork is different as well. So, but for everyone on this call, we'll be choosing standard. That then populates this list. So it's broken into 3 chunks right here. So we have listed, under contract, and closed. So right now we're on listed. You can see it's highlighted there. And then you can see this checklist of items that you need when you take a listing. So you're working with a realtor. That is required for every listing. Your seller's designated brokerage agreement is required for every listing. Input form, required. FinTrack, I put 2 placeholders for FinTracks. Most times you have 1 or 2 clients. If you have more than 2 clients and you need to add another FinTrack, you can click Add Item. Call it FinTrack. And then upload it manually. Most times 2 is plenty. Now, not all of these.
Is that the individual identification one?
Yep.
Yeah.
Dennis?
So where it says listing right now, like if you scroll back up, is it saying listing because you put the person in as a listing? So like if you had a buyer, that would now say buyer and just automatically give you all the other stuff?
Exactly. So when I was stressing how important it is that you choose your opportunity as a listing or buyer correctly, this is why. If I had chose that this was a buyer opportunity, I would have different options right here. And then the checklist would be different because obviously you need different paperwork if you're representing a buyer.
What would it, if you have a buyer, what would it say over there? It wouldn't say standard? It would just say something.
So standard is still there. And 9 times out of 10, that's what you're going to choose. PEI is also still there. So none of you will ever choose PEI unless you get your license there. The main difference is there is a for sale by owner option if you're representing a buyer. So those are the only 2 you would use, is standard or for sale by owner. Of course, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be standard. You're going to be buying an MLS listing. But for those times that you are buying a for sale by owner property, you'll choose that checklist. It just, the different paperwork is all in the list for you. So you have your
Perfect.
seller, customer, and then a spot for your seller FinTracks, because you then have to FinTrack the seller and things like that. I'll go
Thank-
through a buyer one as well. So we'll come back to that. All right, so keep in mind, not all of this paperwork is necessarily required. So for example, I have a condo docs holder. If you're not listing a condo, you're not submitting condo docs. It's conditionally required because if you're listing a condo, it is required, okay? Power of attorney and will. If those don't exist, we don't need it. But if it does exist, it's required. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Just because it's on this list does not mean we have to have it. It's all situational. It depends on the listing.
So with,
So-
sorry, is everything in there, for example, if I'm doing a listing, which I hopefully will be doing for the end of the week, a listing for a vacant property, is that on there or do I need to upload it?
It's the same. You would still just have the working with the realtor, the seller's designated. The input form would just be the vacant land input form versus the residential input form. But so you would just upload it in the input form spot.
Okay, and property disclosure statement, is that also on there, like for the vacant land? Same thing? It
Same
just needs
thing.
for the- Okay, cool. thanks.
Whichever PDS, if it's a residential PDS or if it's a vacant land PDS. just
Awesome.
put it in
Thanks.
PDS. Okay, so let's attach some files. So if you're uploading more than one, it's easier to click attach multiple. If you have your documents in DocuSign, so this is why I just added things there quickly. It makes your life easy at this point. All you have to do is click DocuSign right here. And now all of the documents that are in your DocuSign room are listed right here. So you don't have to download them from DocuSign and upload them to Command. Oops, that's not the right one. Did you see everyone good there? If they're in your DocuSign room, they're right there. And then I just click attach. And now you can clearly see that there's something attached there and the status has changed to uploaded.
You say, if they're in your DocuSign room from here, from right here, when you're adding file, is that how they get in there?
Yeah, so do you use DocuSign, Marianne?
Yes, always.
And you come in, do you create an opportunity and click go to or start a transaction?
No, I'm not going through.
Okay, then that
Just
would
in
be easier
DocuSign.
for you. You have to use it the way that I just showed you, or else they're not you need the opportunity in the DocuSign room to be linked.
Okay, so as you're adding them here, add, they're going into your DocuSign.
No, I'm taking them from DocuSign and putting them on Command.
Okay.
Yeah,
So you're doing DocuSign first.
yeah.
And so does that have to be in order then, like working with the realtor first and then seller designated?
No, mine just happened to be in the same order.
Okay.
But when you add a file, you can scroll through and add any at all.
Right, okay.
And then if you're not using DocuSign the way that we teach it, that's fine. You'll just have to download the signed documents to your computer and then click add a file. Instead of clicking on DocuSign, leave it on manual,
Yeah, that's how I used to.
and
do.
you're just going to find it on your computer. So if it went into your downloads, you can find it there. So let's just add this document there.
But it's easier, more efficient if you do it as a whole through DocuSign.
Exactly.
And you just load up the 5 or 6 that you need and then just go on. Okay.
Yeah.
Erin, can I just go back to that land input form that Jen talked about?
Yeah.
So the regular input form is there. And so how do you get the land one in?
You just put whichever one applies to your listing.
Is it
This
there?
is just a placeholder. It's just saying we need this item. So if your listing happens to be land, input the land input form here. If it
Oh, it's
happens to
there.
be residential, add the residential input form here.
Okay, so when you're adding it, it gives you the option.
Well, you're going to add whichever document you want.
But if it's not, is it an option here though? You say input form, but
It's in your forms.
It's whichever form you filled out, you're just going to add here.
oh, okay, get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, add it in. Okay.
Is it the one that we put in the envelope under that person? I'll just have to go back to my DocuSign.
Yeah, so if you've used DocuSign, everything in that room, so everything related to that listing will be right here. And if it's not in DocuSign, you're just going to add it from your computer. So if you have a folder for 123 Main Street over here, you're going to click there and then find your input form. Maureen, all of the recordings go on our YouTube channel. Okay, so once you've uploaded all of your documents, all you have to do is click Submit to MC. So that, it's really important. I've been helping out with sales lately, and I've noticed a lot of people not clicking Submit. If you don't click Submit, it doesn't come to us. Okay, so you need to click Submit. It's like not clicking Send on an email. All right, very important.
Erin, is there a spot for the trade record sheet and all
Well,
that
this
kind
is
of
just
jazz in
listing
there?
documents. So there's no trade record sheet when you just have a listing. So that was my next step. Once you have an accepted offer on your listing, you're going to move to the next part of the checklist, which is under contract. And look, now we're going to have our agreement of purchase and sale, our counter offer, our trade record sheet. Kelly just asked if it's better to wait to submit until you have a few documents or submit them one by one as I get them. It's really situational. If it's an amendment, submit it right away so it can be dealt with. If you're like, so this is more so once you have a sale versus a listing, but if you just uploaded taxes and you're about to upload restrictive covenants in a bit, and you might add the power bill the next day, it's not really the end of the world either way. It doesn't make a difference. But if it's something that needs to be dealt with, like an amendment, then you should send it right away. Does that answer that question, Kelly? Okay. Yeah, I mean, if it's something that needs to be like triggers a change in the commission invoice or something like that, that we send to lawyers, then it's better we get it as soon as possible. Okay, Margaret brokered me. All documents are to be submitted to the office when received. That's the broker answer. So submit documents as you receive them. Thank you, Margaret. Okay, so now we have an accepted offer on our listing. So we move to the under contract portion and same thing, just attach the documents to these placeholders. Okay, so really all you're doing is now you're attaching documents to this list instead of attaching it to an email. So when the office receives these, Jess, can you go in and reject and approve and mark some things as missing on that? So the office, you can see how everything has a status. Let me just move back to the listed portion. See how everything has a status? Right now, these ones are saying uploaded because there's something uploaded. And these ones are saying not uploaded because there's nothing uploaded. Once the office gets them, they will mark things as rejected if something needs to be fixed, or missing if you have to provide it and you haven't. The office does not mark documents as approved, only brokers will. So you won't see your individual documents moving to approved right away. That's okay. Only brokers mark them as approved. So don't panic. I just got a Kelly notification. So you get Kelly notification, so you should have Kelly on your phone. I also got a notification to my bell right here. So it says 789 Main Street, Hillary Reader, SDBA expires December 31st, 2021. Compliance has been returned. So if I wasn't in the opportunity, I could just click here. It would bring me right into the opportunity. I already was, so it's just going to bring me back to the same place. So you can see the status of my checklist is now returned. So that automatically prompts me that something is wrong. Okay, so I scroll down here. I see these ones stayed as uploaded. So I assume everything's okay so far until the broker reviews it. But I can see my FinTrack was returned. Now there's a little bubble right here, which tells me why it was returned. That's the note from the office saying what's wrong with the document. So it says it's missing the ID number. So I can go fix my FinTrack. Once I do, I update it and add the new one. Let's pretend this is my corrected FinTrack. And so it must have had 2 sellers because my FinTrack here is required. So I only uploaded 1 FinTrack, but I should have uploaded 2. So this one happens to be on my computer, not on DocuSign. So I am adding that this way. And then she also marked the listing cut as missing. So I'll just attach something else here. Keep in mind, everything has to be a PDF. So you can't upload JPEGs, you can't upload Word documents, anything like that. So now that I've changed and fixed everything that she marked either missing or incorrect, I am just going to hit resubmit. And now you can see the status has changed to resubmitted. It was returned. Any
Hitting
questions about
resubmit
that?
is just as important as hitting submit.
Yes,
Because it's still, we don't get it back into our queue unless you hit resubmit.
exactly. So every time you change something, you have to click this button. Now, in this case, right now where my status is resubmitted, if I add another document, so if I come in a couple hours later, add something else, and the office hasn't gotten to that yet, I cannot click resubmit again. It's still in the status of resubmitted. That's okay, don't panic. I do get panicked calls from time to time saying, it won't let me submit my documents, but it's still sitting there waiting, so it's still submitted, okay?
Oh, okay.
Any questions? No? All right. So, a couple things for in case. So what happens if you have to upload something that isn't in this list? So I use the example, you have 3 sellers, so you have 3 FinTracks. All you have to do is click add item, and I can call it FinTrack 3 if I want to. I can just call it FinTrack. It really doesn't matter what you call it. Document type, really don't worry about this. You can just call it an addendum and then upload your 3rd FinTrack. Okay, that's just going to add it to the very bottom here. One thing I want to mention is amendments. So amendments are really important that you're adding them in the right place. So you can be amending your SDBA, or you could be amending your agreement of purchase and sale. Please pay attention and put it in the right spot. If you're amending your SDBA, that amendment goes in the listed checklist. So there is 2 placeholders for amendments down here. But if you're amending your SDBA, so if you're changing the closing date or changing the sale price, then add it in the under contract portion to this amendment. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay, I see some nodding heads. If at any point you need to communicate with the office, you click add comment. So this is replacing the actual email portion. This is how you send a message. If you want to get someone in particular's attention, you put in the @ symbol and then add them, click on their name and then write your message. This will give that person a notification to make sure that they see it. Okay, so if it's when you click if you're on a team, you'll see all of your team members in here, all of the staff and all of the brokers.
Oh.
If you're not on a team, you'll just see the staff and brokers. Those are the
Oh,
only people you can communicate with.
So Aaron, will we actually know who's actually looking at our paperwork? So we know who to communicate with? Does it say on there who's reviewing it?
Yeah, so if you'll see one of us say like, at Margaret, file ready for review. So that will be a good indicator. Then when you come back in here, you can say, oh, Margaret's the broker looking at this file, right? So if you need to at Margaret, and then for listings, I think Jess is still doing listings in Command, but
Yeah.
soon it will be Hillary. So if it's a listing issue that you need Hillary's to fix something or see something, you're going to mention Hillary. If it's sales, you're going to do Lynn, right? We good there?
Yeah, thanks.
So that's where you would say like, this deal is now firm. Normally you would send an email saying this is firm. So you can just say at Lynn, now firm. Yes, Anka, every time you add something, you have to click resubmit. So just because you press submit one time, every time you add something, you have to click resubmit again, or it's not coming into our queue. Okay, one other important thing. Now you'll all forget this until you have to do it. So what happens if, okay, wait, let me just add some documents here. So this is your listing and you got an accepted offer. So we move to the under contract portion and we upload all the documents we have and we submit those. Then this deal falls. And now you get a new accepted offer on the same listing. You don't create a new opportunity because it's the same transaction, the same potential transaction. All you have to do is come to the under contract portion right here. And right here where it says under contract, it's a drop down. You can add a version. So under contract version 2, once I hit create, I have a blank checklist. So this did have something here. So I have original under contract and version 2. So if I go back to the original one, you can see I had something uploaded here. But now I have a new accepted offer. So I need a blank checklist to start over. Okay, everyone good there?
Yeah.
Please, I know you probably won't remember how to do that because it's not an everyday thing, but please try and make this stick in your mind. So at least you are like, there's something that I do here. So when it does happen, you can at least reach out and say, I forget what I was supposed to do there, but what do I know there's something. Don't create a new opportunity. It's going to frustrate you and it's annoying on our end. You're going to be frustrated. You have to make a new opportunity and upload your listing documents again. And then it just creates a mess on our side. So just try and remember that there's something when that happens.
There's also a video in Weebly that shows
There
it
is.
very easily.
Yeah, so I'll show you that too, actually. So on Weebly, so kwselect.weebly.com, password is profit share with no space. Under training, there is compliance in command videos. So these first videos right here are very small chunks. So that one, fallen deal and new sale. It shows you what to do. And then there's also a full recording of a training like this. Danielle, I'll have to take a look at that. I don't know off the top of my head what that looks like.
I think it's just the status because if you look at the uploaded, it has a little question mark. beside it.
Oh,
So that's normal.
yeah, that's normal. I don't know why that's there. That's weird. Okay, everybody good? Does that make sense? Any questions? I'm gonna go make a buyer opportunity just so I can show you the different checklists, but it's really the same process. Actually, I'll create an opportunity differently this time. So I'm just gonna show you a different way to create an opportunity. So last time I started in contacts, I created my contact, and then went into the contact to create the opportunity. So when you say you've been archiving offers, Steve, are you working in there or are you working in a different tab? 1 second. This tab.
You're muted,
You're
Steve.
muted.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I guess in DocuSign, I've been working under documents, not offers and commissions.
Mhm.
And it's just, you know, like working, like I said, I've kind of been doing this the wrong way, just kind of chucking everything in one room with these clients and sorting everything as I go.
So I'm just going to stop you really quick. DocuSign and Command are two different things.
Okay.
DocuSign, you can do whatever you want in there, however you want to organize it, totally fine. This is for the document submission, so you would only be submitting accepted offers. So if
Right.
you're offering on property and losing, offer on a property, lose, offer on a property, lose, we're not getting that.
Right.
Right?
So I can just flush that down the
Yeah.
digital toilet.
So in DocuSign, I don't want to spend too much time on this because it's not a DocuSign training, but you can create folders.
That's fine.
So if you want, you can create a folder for like offer on 123 Main Street and then put everything in there. So it's kind of out of the way. And then offer on 456 Main Street, right?
Cool. Yep. That registers in my little monkey brain. Thank you.
Okay. But yeah, so for Command, we're only getting the accepted offers. Okay. So let me just go, I'm going to create an opportunity the other way that you could do it. So instead of starting in contacts, we're going to start in opportunities. So it's the shaking hands. So here's the pipeline view I've been mentioning. Again, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but so up in the top right corner, we can click create opportunity. It's the same screen as before, so I'm not going to go through it in as much detail, but this time I'm going to choose buyer instead. My client is not automatically attached because I didn't start in her contact card. So all you have to do is start typing it and it'll appear. So in this case, I'm going to leave it as Hillary Reader buyer because I don't know what property she's getting an accepted offer on yet. And for her, she's an active buyer. So again, if we need to edit anything, we click this pencil. But if I go into the Documents tab, now this time when I choose a checklist type, this is where you're going to see the different options. So still, 9 times out of 10 when you're representing a buyer, it's still going to be standard. So you're going to choose standard. So instead of listed, we see consultation. And so instead of our seller's designated, we now have a buyer's designated. We still have the working with a realtor, we still have Fintrax, but it's much shorter. That's really all. Before you have an accepted offer with the buyer, these are the buyer docs, right? And then the under contract is the same. A little bit different because when it's a buyer, we need the receipt of funds. When it's the seller, we don't. So small changes like that, but pretty much the same. The big change would be if you're buying a property that is for sale by owner. So the seller isn't using an agent, then you're going to use this checklist because the documents we need are much different. So under consultation, we need Fintrax for the buyer, Fintrax for the seller, working with the realtor for the seller, working with the realtor for the buyer. Oh, there it is. Still need the buyer's designated, but we also need a seller customer. Okay, so that checklist, it's really important how different they are. And it's really important, you're only choosing this one if that's the case. Margaret or Jess, do you guys have anything to add?
I don't think so.
No? Okay. Does anybody have any questions? Oh, you're muted, Nicole.
Oh, sorry, I do. So I've been using this for about a year. And I realized that there's maybe something that I've been doing wrong. So you're saying at the beginning that if it's your listing and you have a buyer customer, so what I've been doing so far is in the listing, I would just, in the under contract part, I would add an item to add the buyer customer agreement, and they're working with the realtor and FinTrack. That's a no-no?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's getting the job done, but in the future, so this is a whole lot of back-end KW talk that you guys don't see, but we use a program called Winmore, which is how all the stats get to KW. So right now we're still using Winmore. We still have to take everything from here and put it into Winmore. Eventually, Winmore is no longer going to exist, and it's all going to be done through Command. So if you continue to do it that way, once Command is officially the stats generator, you'll only get credit for one end doing it that way.
Got you.
Right? Versus two ends, because in reality, it's two ends. You're representing the seller and the buyer. But if you only have one opportunity, it's going to think that's only one end.
Okay, understood.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, thanks.
And it also wouldn't be calculating your commission right in your pipeline, right? The referral section, sure. So there is a checklist for referrals. We just had a lot of questions. It's more so this is if you sent a referral to an agent in Toronto, you can upload the referral form. And then if you do a trade record sheet, you can upload it. So you're not actually doing a transaction here. It's just, you still need to submit the referral form to us. We're going to end up with a random check. So this is just how you would submit it. It's more so the teams were struggling with it because they need to submit a trade record sheet saying who on the team is getting paid what. So we just kind of needed to create a spot for them. But also as an individual agent, you can still just upload the referral form so we know what the referral is. And if you can get a copy of the listing cut, I mean, you don't have access to their MLS. So unless the other agent can send it to you, it would be helpful. Any questions? No? It includes referrals we send. So yes, this would be if you are not doing the transaction and the agent in Toronto is doing the transaction. If you received a referral from an agent in Toronto, so you did the transaction, you would just choose whichever checklist applies. So if it's a standard buyer, and then you could add a spot for the referral form, and like on your trade record sheet, you would indicate that there's a referral being paid. So the referral checklist is if you're not doing the transaction, you're just receiving a referral fee.
A lot of times we send out referrals and it doesn't necessarily end up in anything, but anytime we send one out that's signed, we should still create a transaction to upload that just in case.
Up to you.
Okay.
Whenever you would normally submit it to the office, I guess. So if you just hold on to the referral form until you know that those clients actually transacted and then submit it, then you can keep doing it that way.
Okay, thanks.
It's just basically, we need to know when we just get a random check in the mail, we're like, what? So we just need that referral form somewhere, right? You'd be surprised how much that happens. All right, well, if there's no more questions, then that is all. This is recorded, so it will be on YouTube. There's a couple recordings of it on YouTube so far. If you want to watch a different one, maybe I say something a different way that makes you understand better, but just start trying this. And really, if it seems overwhelming, just remember you're simply attaching documents to a list instead of an email. And it is so much easier. You can see what you've submitted, right? If you're like, oh, did I send in that tax bill? I can't remember. Guess what? You can easily see if you did or not. It's much better than emails. You can find everything. Everything's in the same place. You don't have to like search that address in your email and you get 1,000 emails from the other agent and the office and the broker, and everything's here.
I find it so much more convenient than the old way. You're not, we have so many emails on a regular basis. It's good if we can avoid extra ones. Like I said, it's all in one place. You have your checklist. You don't have to worry about if you've forgotten anything, and if something is missing on it, you just go right back, get alerted. So I think it's great.
Yeah. Also, I didn't mention this, I don't think, but I also received an email when Jess returned my opportunity. I got an email telling me so too. So using it this way, like you still get an email saying something's been returned. You need attention, like fix something, right? So it's so easy. And right in the email, you just click on it. It brings you into the opportunity. All right. And then
Get an email when it's approved though. So if you don't get an email, just assume that it's.
Yeah.
I'll tell you if something.
Legitimately, no news is good news.
Yeah.
This
All
was
right.
awesome.
And Margaret just put in the chat, please remember to enter the estimated closing date.
Thank you, Margaret. Awesome.
It's how the brokers review. They review based on when they're closing. So if we don't have that in there, we don't know.
So how do you, I have to ask the question, how do you know if something so if I have a listing coming, I'm hoping it sells within the next 2 months, I'll just put an estimated until it closes, then change it?
You don't have to put in the estimated closing date until you have an accepted offer and you know what the closing date is.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Thanks.
It is.
Because when we review, like if you've got something that's closing in 2 weeks and there's no estimated closing date, it goes to the end of the pages of files we review. So you might not get a review done on time because right now I think I've got 150 some files sitting in my queue to review. Plus the paper files. So if I don't go to the very last page when I'm reviewing command, and that's where the ones that have no closing date are, and I have to go in and look at the agreement, and if it says it closes in January 2022, I'm not going to review that ahead of something that's going to close in June. But if it's closing in 2 weeks, I need to know that because it'll bump up to the beginning of my queue.
That's awesome. That's a great value add. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, the system puts them in order of closing date.
Yeah.
So we need that closing date in there.
Okay, I also just realized we need to start bringing Margaret harder things to drink, like not coffee. Let's just really kick it up. This lady's putting in some time. This is incredible.
All right. Well, if there's no questions, then we will say goodbye. But yeah, please start, if you are still emailing, please start using this. When you have something to submit, if you need help, reach out to one of us. But yeah, please start using this way instead of emailing. All right.
Thanks, Erin.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thanks.